One meaning that seems to me to be connected to this concept of dreaming is related to bearing witness and vision. I believe that dreaming is an action that helps us to dream into existence the potentials embodied within the person we meet or within ourselves. That is, if we can dream something into existence, that implies we brought our vision, our consciousness, to a place which sees the potentials that can be realized within the person. The fact that we see them helps these potentials to come into being, to begin to materialize in fact. I had a patient who had a very difficult, violent childhood. He suffered a lot, and there was a sense of survival in the room for a very long time. It was hard for me to imagine him executing a true developmental act and realizing his potential. It was a period where I had to contain a certain level of despair or some doubts as to whether the treatment would help him grow. And then I remember we had a session, and suddenly, in the middle of the session, not actively, this image arose in me. His face seemed different, and I imagined him living his wishes. He wanted to be able to have a life in a relationship, preserve his job, and lead a normal life. Suddenly, I imagined it. I dreamt it. I reached this place. It was a very significant moment in treatment for me as a therapist, as it gave me a lot of hope, since the experience wasn't a result of guided imagination or positive thinking, but about something that suddenly emerged, a vision of potentials that take form through an image. The fact that you see something may imply that within the patient there's something at potential level that is ready to grow, that this possibility already exists. It exists, but it still needs another awareness and vision to support its path to execution. It needs envisioning. Dreaming is something that involves surrendering. We cannot make dreams. Dreaming is something to which we surrender. It is like trusting and falling into a certain space, broader and deeper than us. And it has a mysterious quality. It's not something we can control. That is why sometimes I like to say that dreaming is surrendering to a larger or higher part of the me, that in its contact with components prior to me, or that are not yet me, there's a certain alchemy between these two elements, which creates the experience of oneself. It is the alpha function that works with beta elements to generate our sense of existence, and it is also that envisioning that works with potential parts that are prior to our personality. Together, they create an alchemy that helps generate a psychic reality. I want to add something related to the interpersonal process of dreaming, the way in which the other influences someone. So we can say that we need another mind to need our mind. We need a dreaming process that surrounds us and dreams us into existence. If this does not happen or happens incorrectly, something in us cannot be realized, and something in us is not us. Let's say a father cannot see his son. The father is taken by his expectations and fails to see the unique potential of his son. The child cannot create himself alone. He cannot see from the outside the potential that exists in him and develop it. He needs someone else. In that situation, he will be subject to the inappropriate dreaming process of the father. And I sometimes say that he will find himself under a spell, like a slave who goes after his master. He's under a spell, after wrong vision of himself. One of the things that can happen in treatment, in the therapeutic process, is a release from that spell into an authentic existence. The therapist helps by having the space and the emotional tools to envision the true potentials of the patient, to help them exist. And so, they release the child from the spell he was under. The therapist's dream becomes the patient's own dream and enables new possibilities embodied in the patient's own existence. Again, we see that dreaming is similar to alpha function. When we spoke of projective identification, we said that the child needs an external container to soften and modify his terrors and to facilitate his ability to think. In this class, we see that dreaming has a similar function, yet dreaming feels less mechanical than alpha function. The act of dreaming not only modifies terrors, but also co-creates the authentic self-idiom into existence. Therefore, dreaming feels like a function that contains a deeper level of imagination, emotion, devotion, creation, and poetry.